Anesthesiologists of Reddit, when you get people to count backwards, what's the furthest anyone has got? My dad continued counting to -20 when the anesthesiologists realized he was immune to it. Nightmare. What did they do? Since they, ideally, knock you out before surgery, I'm guessing they got a different medication and went on with it. Sometimes they check to see if you have any feeling and give you the option to just continue on while wide awake. Can confirm. My dad ripped his bicep muscle. He knew the surgeon and stayed awake during the procedure to fix the muscle, basically tying it back onto the bone, from what I remember. They talked a bit during, but there was a curtain so my dad couldn't see anything. It can really freak people out, so they tend to block it. However, since the surgeon was a friend, he offered to let my dad look. My dad gave a hard no on that one. I was awake during a C-section. It was kind of odd. My husband is tall and he saw over the curtain just in time to see them pull my uterus out, lay it on my stomach, then open the uterus and drag the baby out. He damn near died figuratively. Was in the room for my wife's as well. Only thing I had a hard time with was where to look. My newborn or my wife's internals. Both were equally fascinating, but honestly I think the uterus won out a bit more. Given that you'll hopefully get to see your baby outside your wife's body a lot more frequently, that seems fair. To be honest, you'll see the kid a lot. Odds are that you wouldn't see the uterus again. Not with that attitude. Lol. I told my wife that I watched him take her apart, but I never saw them put her back together. I was distracted by the little boy at that point. As we were wheeling into the OR, I forbade my husband from looking around that damn drape. If you want to get geeky and look at internal organs, do it another time, on someone else. To be fair, I'd been through a human dissection class and attended a couple autopsies, so I possibly had a more visceral reaction to being the object of interest on the table than others might. I don't know, but he did as I asked, that's all that matters. I grew up helping my dad field dress deer, so I'm rather immune to gore like that. During my wife's C-section, the OB saw me watching the reflection in a metal cabinet and said, "You can come over here if you want." I watched my wife's emergency C-section. Absolutely fascinating. I wanted to ask questions, but thought it was appropriate. Afterwards my wife was, "I can't believe you watched that, you psycho." That's what I said to my husband. He said he didn't mean to see it, but once he did see it, he couldn't stop watching it. Usually no one is allowed in the room for emergency C-sections, only elective ones. I've had 5. You've had 5 emergency C-sections? Damn, you're a strong, determined lady. Sorry if I wasn't clear, I've had 2 emergency and 3 elective. Number, that's how that's done? Jesus Christ. Are women just indestructible? Birth is the easy part, then you have to raise them. What exactly was easy about the baby popping out alien style? I couldn't feel it. I felt pressure, but no pain. The anesthetic used, spinal? Epidural? Can't remember exactly, knocks out all feeling below a certain point in the spine. Unless there's substantial difference in procedure, obs angina is pretty much my weakest part of medicine. The uterus and all is not drawn out from the body, the incision to it is made within the abdomen, and baby pulled out. Mine was definitely taken out of my abdomen, then they opened the uterus. I'm a med student currently on OB-GYN. Cut into abdomen, make an opening between ab muscles. Cut into the uterus, pull baby out while pushing on the upper abdomen. Then peds takes the baby for their thing. The uterus is then pulled out of the body for inspection and repair. Then put back in and you're sewn back up. The incision in the abdomen isn't big enough to pull baby and uterus out at once. I have seen many C-sections. I highly doubt this happened as you claim. Putting women out for C-sections is a last resort. They're almost always awake. Again. Alien versus Predator when the alien bursts out. This is the sentiment that just flabbergasted me. I am middle-aged plus, so maybe it's just my experience. I grew up in the 70s to 80s. I was there when my mom wasn't allowed to work and could not get a credit card. I saw the fight of women to have human considerations. So I experienced that females were weak in mind and body, yet time after time we proved to be stronger in mind and spirit. Not in muscles, and that makes us prey. But there were gains. Big gains in equality in the workplace and determining what we wanted and did. Big gains in how males viewed women as equals. And then boom, Trump ass wins. I know it was a fluke, but damn. Maybe those gains were optical illusions. I don't know. All I know is that I changed in November 2016. I am no longer polite to BS. Maybe it was long overdue. I no longer tolerate bad behavior at all. For me, yes. But mostly I have to set an example for younger people. There is no excuse for being a sexual predator and no excuse good enough for accepting it. Rant ended. Some of my friends fell for the Trump Kool-Aid, but it looks like they're coming back to reality. It's like the drug is wearing off. Now they don't want to talk about him because they feel attacked for anything bad he's done. I once heard someone describe experiencing a C-section as feeling like having someone do the dishes in your guts. It stuck with me for so long and makes me physically cringe to imagine ever having this happen to me. Mad respect for all the people who have been through it. I could feel intense pressure when they pulled the baby out, but no pain. Had 3 C-sections, can def confirm this. It's so freaking weird. Managed to watch the second one in the reflection on the lights above my head. Also the cauterizing smells like bacon. My burning internals made me hella hungry and hella confused. I kinda wanted a clear curtain for my C-section, but then I tried to watch a YouTube video of it and changed my mind real quick. It's definitely ick. Ditto. I was awake during both of my C-sections. The first was an emergency and I hadn't gotten numb in time. I was too scared and out of my mind with grief. My son died shortly after birth, and we knew that he wouldn't make it, that I couldn't even voice to them that I could feel everything. And I mean everything. I won't go into detail, but it was horrible. I finally went numb about the same time my now ex-husband came into the operating room. He watched them take our son and stuff everything back in. I was still awake, but at least I could only feel the tugging and prodding by then. The second C-section was much easier. It was more laid back. I was numb, but awake. The worst part of that was that they did my tubal at the same time. Smelling the burning flesh and knowing it's your fallopian tubes is pretty messed up. God, I'm so sorry for what you went through. That's just awful. Yeah, my husband told me a few days after my son's C-section birth, I'm pretty sure I saw some of your internal organs outside your body, just lying on your chest. You can take the whole uterus out and put it back in apparently. It sounds so sci-fi. Can confirm, seeing what's supposed to be inside on the outside really fucks you up. When I was 13 I stayed in the hospital for a month after almost dying from appendicitis, and my stomach was left open from belly button to my pant line to heal from the inside out. They changed the dressing every day and one day I saw it, and it messed me up for a long while. Messed you up how? In an existential sort of way? Afterwards anytime they would come to change the dressing I would get a sick feeling in my stomach and it seemed to hurt a lot more than before. Before it happened I knew it was open, but seeing it just made it that much more real. That sounds amazing. I would love to watch and have the doctor tell me what they're doing at the same time. But then again I did an internship where I saw 2 open heart surgeries and I absolutely loved it. Hell, one of my favorite sounds is the noise of a hook breaking through the sternum to tie it back together at the end of the surgery, so probably a bit of an odd one out, low limb cool with gore, but when it's on me I can't for some reason. I held my friend's hand shut after a bad cut, but I still have to look away when a needle punctures my skin. I agree. I once sliced my arm open accidentally, and it required a gazillion stitches. I was stoked because it was the first time that I got to watch the whole procedure. My dad is 68 and diabetic, so apparently anesthesia is more dangerous for him. So instead of the gas, he got a painkiller and Novocaine shots. He had to get prostate surgery, something along the lines of they stick a hot tube up your dick hole and melt away the enlarged portions of the prostate. My dad said he was fascinated to watch the entire operation all on a screen across from him. Personally, I don't like going under anesthesia. I find it extremely unpleasant, and I vote for Novocaine instead when I can. Got to watch my wisdom teeth get removed through a mirror totally conscious. It was quite the sight. Like father like son, I guess wisdom teeth I think I could watch. But your dad is a stronger man than I to be able to watch someone stick a hot rod up his urethra. I can handle quite a bit, but that might actually make me pass out. If I remember correctly, he watched his procedure on a black and white screen resembling an ultrasound or X-ray, the one the doctor was using to navigate the hot rod, so it wasn't as detailed and gory as when I watched them drill bloody holes in the back of my mouth through a mirror. Don't like that. I know when I've observed they use propofol. There are a few different options, some tend to make patients more nauseous though. If all else fails, maybe a localized anesthetic? Step 2 is a cricket bat. For surgeries in the lower body, they could give an epidural. My grandfather had an epidural for his hip replacement because they were worried about knocking him out. He wasn't handling the morphine well before surgery. He was completely loopy on a low dose, and his breathing was irregular, so he was more or less awake, only a mild sedative with an epidural, so he didn't feel anything. What happened next? The surgery. What happened next will surprise you. I can't stop laughing. Thank you, you dangerous crow. Quick one bang to the eye should do it. Local anesthesia for me. Then shock. Gotta be careful of integer overflow underflow in this case, right? Jesus, what did he start cooing from? 19. Obviously same for mine except the anesthesiologist straight up forgot to let the gas out. Yeah, no one's immune to it. You just give more.